Another important conclusion that came through was BIOFIN can be seen as a pilot for other areas of sustainable development finance. If you look at the BIOFIN process with its steps, doing the policy analysis, then doing the expenditure review, doing the finance needs assessment, and then make a finance plan, and of course, very important to also focus on implementation. And in BIOFIN countries, around half of the budget is actually dedicated to that. This is a model. If you follow the same steps, you can apply it to other development goals. And we can look at having programs that integrate biodiversity and other SDGs into programs. But there's also a possibility to develop programs that focus on other SDGs that follow those same steps. It's actually a very interesting model. And within BIOFIN, we have seen some first very interesting examples, in particular related to climate change. I think that's also because I was personally in the climate finance session. We saw that there's a lot of opportunities for biodiversity within climate finance, and James from the Peru team did a very interesting mapping of that, and I think that's something every country should do. To continue, we really got the message from many countries that, we are a little bit, let's say, behind our timeline for completing the next version of the BIOFIN workbook, the 2016 version. But we are actually very advanced. But we really have to make the final step of producing the fully published version. And it should really look into all the key issues that were discussed during this week. For example, we have to make sure that it guides countries how you can look into harmful incentives. We have to address a few issues related to data compatibility and data comparability for the expenditure review. We really need to continue the discussion that we've had with many of you on what is really a biodiversity expenditure. This is the million-dollar question, but we really need to provide a bit more of a framework that is your starting point. I think some countries have been sort of thrown in the deep, the first group of countries, and now we want to provide more detailed guidance on that. We also want to elaborate our guidance on finance solutions now that so many countries are moving into this phase. And fortunately, we work with Massimiliano Riva. He's our guru on finance solutions, and he developed the catalog of finance solutions. It's something we also want to share with countries and develop some additional guidance on how to implement that. Another point which I personally found very interesting to hear during the whole workshop was the need to focus more on solid M&E frameworks. And this is not programmatic monitoring evaluation, which is also important, but in particular, if you look at all steps of the BIOFIN process, every time we have to prove what we're doing for biodiversity. If we develop a climate change bond, if we look at impact investment, if we look at RED, if we look at so many different finance solutions, every time we have to prove the result. So M&E frameworks are really a key issue that we should think about from the beginning. Another really important message from this workshop is the importance of national ownership. I think we have had some success with that in BIOFIN because we're coming with a general structure that you then have to adapt in the country. And we have been very flexible in having countries adapt their own unique BIOFIN model. In a way, every country has its own BIOFIN methodology, I think. So I think that has been one reason why BIOFIN has seen success in countries. And this, of course, requires a very close stakeholder engagement, and we should really think through in each country how we set up the BIOFIN team. I'm moving now to the last 4 lessons that we have for you. We heard many people saying that BIOFIN is unique in a way that it's really building a bridge as well as a common language between biodiversity stakeholders and economic and finance stakeholders. And it's something we also discussed, the language issue in particular in our global team, whether we want to make it really finance language or whether we want to make it also some biodiversity language should be included. And I always said that the answer should be we need something hybrid. We need like a unique BIOFIN fusion language. We have to integrate a little bit of both. This is of course a challenge. But in terms of the partnership, the language is important, but also the institutionalization, which we've seen really that in BIOFIN countries there are these partnerships now, and that's really great to see. And we should continue to build on those partnerships, and we should find ways to institutionalize them. And then we had a lot of discussions on this as well. I was particularly involved in these discussions, and we said, okay, we have to involve all these ministries. How are we going to do that? So I think the strategy to start with 2 or 3 is the best one, and then you can expand later to others. Another important lesson is that the global BIOFIN community of practice as a mechanism for South-South cooperation is really valuable, and I think that's something we see here in the room. It's very clear. It's the countries talking to each other, while we as the global team are facilitating the process. And what is a thing we should think about is how are we going to continue this dialogue? So we have a very interesting dialogue going on at the regional level, at the global level. What happens next? Can we somehow find a way to give more structure to this dialogue in terms of, I don't know, maybe dedicated institutional structure to continue this dialogue, some kind of community of practice. Another area that really came through in almost every session of this workshop was the need to focus more on the private sector. If we really want to make that big finance leap, if we really want to mobilize the resources to achieve the national biodiversity targets, we need to look more into the private sector, and we have to give guidance on how to engage with the private sector. I think at all steps of the BIOFIN process, the private sector has been still quite secondary, and we have to really move it up on the agenda. And as a BIOFIN team, we feel we should give more guidance on that. And then the last point is that countries want to implement their biodiversity finance plans and activate nationally appropriate finance solutions. We see that the countries that developed their finance plans, they have to identify the resources, and there's a lot of demand for follow-up programming, which is good, that countries have additional plans. But we've also seen, very interestingly, a lot of countries that have already dedicated domestic resources. So I think the original idea behind BIOFIN, that we look at all possible resources, national and international, public and private, traditional and innovative, I think that's really working. So it's great to see that during the implementation of the finance plan, countries are really looking at all possible resources. So that's the last of our points, and this reflects the group work that was done in the morning. So thanks for everybody who contributed to this. What we're going to do next is, these are sort of summary points that we picked up, but we're going to work on them a little bit more. We add also more, and we're going to develop a full report on this workshop that we hope to share with you very soon. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Onno.
I have actually 4 points. And the first point is on BIOFIN and mainstreaming. We heard about a lot of the linkages to the broader mainstreaming agenda. And mainstreaming is, of course, the main topic of the upcoming COP meeting later this year in Mexico, and of the preparatory discussions that are going to take place in Sub-Saharan SBI 1 and 2 weeks. Now, and of course, one important recognition and key recognition for BIOFIN is that the budget, the national budget and associated processes is a critical instrument for mainstreaming, and obviously BIOFIN then has a key role to play. If we look at the financial reporting that's now
taking place under the CBD to report progress made on the targets for resource mobilization. One of the targets is actually on integration of biodiversity into development planning, so this is an important component of mainstreaming, obviously. If we look at the feedbacks that we received so far, it's very positive to see that parties seem to make progress in that regard. Literally all of them report at least some progress being made. What's, however, also what can be seen is that the progress is typically at integration at top policy or strategic level. So what apparently needs to be done more is to operationalize, to integrate biodiversity into day-to-day decision making. And I heard here during the high-level exchange that there is a need to develop and implement concrete projects, concrete activities that help to implement this integration at the top level. So, and again, BIOFIN, and as it moves towards the development and the subsequent implementation of the finance plan, I think can play a critical role here. And I heard very positive signs, for instance, at the roundtable, high-level roundtable. Frequently, there was a reference to the importance of tax reforms, environmental fiscal reforms. And that, of course, harks back well to Nick's introductory remarks about aligning incentives, etc. Second point, methodological progress. I also attended the first BIOFIN workshop in Bratislava, and I was really impressed to see the progress here being made by countries and by the UNDP country teams in devising and applying methodologies that are tailored to national circumstances and yield the results needed. So I think for the new BIOFIN countries in particular, there is a very nice opportunity here to piggyback on those experiences and in a sense to leapfrog, by building on the experiences of countries that are already working on the topic for a number of years. Now, as the results come in, of course, I would hope that this will eventually feed into the financial reporting under the CBD. As I mentioned, right now we have a bit over submissions, but we aim, obviously, to get significantly more by COP. So I would like to invite those BIOFIN countries, and that, of course, concerns not the new BIOFIN countries that just joined, but to submit or refine and complement their results as the results of the analysis come in. I have to remind you that the financial reporting framework, the way it's designed, it's an online framework. So it's not a paper report that you submit and then it's really frozen onto the paper. So there is a possibility of provisional reporting, and then with further refinement you can go back to the report and update and refine, complement the results as they come in from the BIOFIN work. And this financial reporting is, of course, of tremendous importance to assess where the CBD as a whole, as a collective process at global level, stands in implementing the targets for resource mobilization. So I would really kind of invite countries to look at this and also, again, recognize and acknowledge the readiness of UNDP and the UNDP country teams to support this financial reporting for the CBD. Third point, linking to existing international and national processes. I just mentioned the methodological progress being made at country level, which was really very nice to see. Listening to the discussion, there seems to be an ongoing need to move towards some common guidance while maintaining the necessary discretion for countries, obviously, to adapt the methodologies to national circumstances. So I hope that the new edition of the BIOFIN guidance will contribute to that. I also noted that there seems to be an increasing interest to look at particular to statistical national accounting work at national global levels, including SCEA, and to strengthen cooperation with statistical authorities. I think from the perspective of the global process, this is a very nice development. I know, listening to country experiences, that initiating or strengthening such cooperation is sometimes not easy. it's different, statisticians want to have it extremely accurate, but while we are perhaps more interested in quick and perhaps more dirty figures. Sometimes the national statistical authorities are central banks, and they are perhaps more interested in macroeconomics and not necessarily in ecosystem accounting. So I'm not saying that this is very easy necessarily, and maybe perhaps not workable in our countries. However, I do believe that there might be quite frequently short-term pain, but long-term gain. So, last point, again coming back, we heard it earlier, BIOFIN and the SDGs. To strengthen this cooperation with statistical authorities, I think is also important in the context of the emerging architecture to help implement the SDGs at national level and to monitor and report of progress in implementation. Obviously, national statistical authorities will have a strengthened and important role to play here. So if we want to inject BIOFIN work into this broader work on reporting for the SDGs, I think that's a very interesting partnership. Just to recall that at global level, we just had this interagency task force being established to help monitoring progress in implementing the Addis Ababa Action Agenda for Sustainable Development Finance. The first report, the inaugural report, was just released, and it contains a reference both to BIOFIN work and to the CBD financial reporting framework to help in monitoring progress in resource mobilization for biodiversity. And then, of course, on the policy side, well, perhaps I think one of the biggest challenge we are facing in the context of the SDG is actually integrating the transforming biodiversity finance agenda into the broader emerging agenda of transforming finance for sustainable development more broadly. So making sure that within this broader finance framework, transformed finance framework, ecosystems and biodiversity play the role that they deserve. So these are the 4 points which are for me the most salient ones coming from that workshop. With that, I would like to first of all thank BIOFIN the global team and the country team for the hard works and for the hard work being undertaken, and of course for inviting us to this workshop. I would like to congratulate the BIOFIN countries, both the existing ones and the incoming ones, for taking on the role as champions for the CBD resource mobilization agenda. And last but not least, I would also like, and coming back to the mainstreaming topic and to link biodiversity to the broader mainstreaming topic, I would like to acknowledge the role of the government of Mexico as the incoming CBD presidency, but also as the host for this workshop, and to acknowledge and thank for the determination to move this agenda forward in the context of the biodiversity agenda. And we know that this mainstreaming work, this mainstreaming task is actually not a very easy agenda to implement. So with that, thank you very much.
And for availing one of the most beautiful spots that I've been for this workshop. It's a great place, and I think it inspires all of us to come back here. And we really appreciate the commitment from government to this workshop. We had real high level of participation, and that really helped also in terms of inviting other people to come. Second, I would like to thank the team from Mexico country office, because Gerardo and the team, and they did a lot of extra work that is required for such a mega event. So thank you very much, we appreciate it. Then I would like to also thank the team from the hotel. I think they've done their best to make us comfortable and arrange everything. So I guess they're not here, but I think we all appreciate the efforts. We shouldn't also forget the translation team. I think you did a good job. Then I want to thank the global BIOFIN team, and I would like to ask them to come up here. Please. Maybe you're part of it, yeah. So there's maybe not enough time to thank each of you, and in particular, Mark, we're actually going to thank him later because we will wait until he makes a wonderful report of our workshop. No, Mark, thanks for what you've already done. I really also want to thank Yijing, our BIOFIN intern, who did a lot of work, worked many late days and evenings to do whatever was needed to organize this workshop. So thank you, Yijing. And next I want to thank somebody who's not here, which is our program associate, Blarina. She really ensured that this was all very smoothly organized, and we can't thank her enough. So big applause to her. Then I want to thank Yves, not only for his contributions to this workshop, but I really want to thank him for being very dedicated over many years to always think how we can bring BIOFIN to the next level. And I think if you look at everything that BIOFIN does, this kind of workshops, the methodology, the work in the countries, really everything, it really reflects the vision of Yves, who never gives up to achieve something better. So I think BIOFIN as a program really stands out because of that. Because, you know, it's just a project in a way. But thank you, Yves, for making it into something that everybody believes in. We really appreciate it. Now I have one more group to call here, which is the team who made this really happen here. Now I'm going over to this side, and please come up here so that everybody can see you. Fernanda, Diana, Carolina, and Mariana, please come here. And I don't want just applause. I want a shout out for this amazing four ladies who really worked tirelessly to make this happen. So let's hear from all of you. Woo-hoo! Okay, I've thanked not almost everybody, because I want to now thank everybody. I want to thank each participant for the work that they're doing for BIOFIN in the country. I think every country has seen some very interesting ideas, some very interesting results. And I also want to thank you for all the preparations you've done for this workshop and for contributing to the discussions. I think we have seen so many interesting ideas from everyone, so big round of applause for all the participants.
And I just am stealing the microphone to thank Onno, because Onno worked so hard. Those late nights really paid off. Anyway, congratulations.
Now there's one more group that I want to thank, and it's the people who actually make BIOFIN happen, the BIOFIN donors. And we all see those logos everywhere, and that represents a very strong commitment, a strong belief in what BIOFIN does. So thanks to our donors. You want to?
Well, thanks, Onno. He actually, I think by now most of you know me. I'm Gabriella from Switzerland, so we're one of those logos up there. And as a representative of the Global Steering Committee, so BIOFIN Global also has a steering committee like you have in your countries. I will have many messages to take home to the steering committee and to convey, and I think the most important one is we talked a lot about effective investments and so on over the last few days, and I will tell my colleagues that this investment is a very effective investment, and I thank you all for your unbelievable engagement domestically and also over the last few days. You were so engaged, asking so many questions, really wanting to learn. It's great to see. And it's great to see what BIOFIN has grown into. Just talking to Jamie before, the jump you did from Bratislava to here is absolutely amazing. So I will definitely have a story to tell home about and to tell the steering committee about. And Onno stole all the thank yous from me. And David, I really wanted to thank you as well. I know it was a tough time, and you did a great job, and we really, really appreciate your efforts and all you made happen for this workshop. Thank you so much again. And last but not least, in the name of the steering committee, really want to thank Yves. Thank you so much. You did a great job, and Onno is right. There's a lot of vision of you in there, and we really, really appreciate it. And when I was sitting with you at that table today, it still seemed like all your heart and vision was still in this project. So looking forward to see whether you really can get away from it. But no, really, thank you so much. It was great working with you, and I wish you all the best for the rest to come. Thank you so much.
You put me on the spot. No, frankly not. I was not ready for this. Muy querido Alfredo, dear Onno, liebe Gabriela, thank you so much. I'm very touched, I have to admit. I'm not normally nervous very easily, but I'm a bit emotional right now. So this has been a quite amazing voyage for me. I have really met a lot of amazing professionals from many, many, many countries, which is fantastic. I've made very good friends with quite a few of you, which I will regret. You see, it's not easy. So it was not an easy decision, to be honest, to leave the project. I had reasons, and I decided it was time to move on. But before sort of wishing everyone the best, I just want to make a small reminder what we have achieved. You know, this project was conceived after CBD COP in 2010. I wrote the original proposal for UNDP as a consultant when the EC, the European Commission, said, we have 1 million for you. Then they gave us 4. Then it was launched in 2012. And I remember in 2012 sitting on a panel, somebody asked me to sit next to Pavan Sukhdev. I was shitting in my pants. I was so nervous because I thought, my God, here I sit and this is Pavan Sukhdev, what? And he was actually the 2 hands at the same time. And I think you've done a great job since I quit, so welcome and congratulations for that, Onno, really. And to everyone in my global team, thanks for this time that we spent together. Anyway, I'm not gone. I'm going to continue in UNDP, at least for a short while. And I'm going to stay, and I'm going to be at CBD SBI in a couple of weeks, and I might even see you at the COP, some of you. So that's a goodbye From my end, I haven't been able to speak to everyone, but who knows, we might see each other again, and all the best. And now we'll run out of words. So this is closing the meeting, unless Gillian was... Close the meeting?
Closed.
The meeting is closed.
Thank you all.
Let's go to the market.
Safe travels. I have a last slide that says safe travels, but you all know it's safe travels, so enjoy.